Hello guys, I'm Paris the Options Guy and welcome to the No BS Trading Podcast. This is episode number 14 of the podcast and thank you very much for tuning in. But yes, this week we are going to talk about what was the big announcement that Reliance made in the previous week. How did the US GDP data come out and how did the PCE price index come out, which was a bit of an important data point as I said last week. And yes, I'm also going to talk about what is going to happen in the next week and what are the major events that you should look out for and how the markets can move in the coming week given that the US markets, Indian markets have hit an all-time high. So yeah, let's just start with the episode without any further delay. So starting off with the previous week, we had the Reliance AGM, which I was expecting that it wouldn't really be any sort of a big deal. And in the AGM itself, in the annual general meeting itself, Reliance didn't really announce something really groundbreaking or anything. They did announce a few things, but they were not something which were a very big deal. However, just 15 minutes before the AGM was about to start, they announced that they would be giving out bonus shares because of which Reliance started to shoot up. That was the main reason. So the AGM was at 2 p.m. on Thursday, and at 1:45 p.m. Reliance announced that they will be doing a 1:1 bonus issue. So that means if you have one share of Reliance, you will get one extra share of Reliance. So if you have 5 shares, you will now have 10 shares. But does that mean that that the total wealth or the invested value doubles? No. What happens in a bonus share is that since this is a 1:1 bonus share, right? That means your one share will become 2 shares, right? So what will happen is that the value of Reliance, the value of per share of Reliance will also be divided into half. Okay. So this is done so that nobody just buys Reliance just for the sake of getting bonus shares and profiting off of it. The mechanism behind this is that if the real value of Reliance is much higher than, after let's say the shares become half in value, the shares will continue to move up even after the bonus shares are given, right? And you will have much more overall invested value after the shares are given out. I know this is a bit complicated, but keep in mind that if you are getting a 1:1 bonus on Reliance shares, that does not mean that that your invested value will get doubled in overnight. So let's say if you have invested 10,000 rupees in Reliance, that does not mean that now your shares will become worth 20,000. They will remain the same. However, the total number of shares will double, right? So that is out of the way. Nothing really big, as I said, which was announced in the AGM itself. A few small you can say announcements that were made, which were sort of, you can say, specific to some sectors or specific to some businesses of Reliance. But yes, after that we had the US GDP data also on the same day, which came out at 3%. The expectations were that the GDP data would come out at 2.9%. So basically, almost you can say with the expectations, the US GDP data has come. And this is, as I said, the Fed will be in a dilemma, right? I said this in the previous episode also, that the Fed will be in a bit of a dilemma, that if the Fed is saying that the economy is slowing down, but the data is telling you something different, there will be a bit of a, you can say, problem or a confusion on whether the Fed should cut rates in the coming September meeting. But the GDP data has come out at 3%. This seems like a very strong data. And then on Friday, we had the PCE price index, the personal consumption expenditure price index, which came out at 2.5%. Now, this PCE price index is similar to the CPI inflation data with a few changes. So, PCE price index coming out at 2.5%. Expectations were that it would come out at 2.6%. So, a bit lower than expectation, but still, pretty much, you can say, almost same as expectations. Core PCE price index coming out at 2.6% versus the expectations of 2.7%. And I've written an article, a very good article on this matter of how falling inflation could actually be a bad thing or a bad sign in disguise. We assume that falling inflation will be is a good sign for the economy, right? If the inflation is falling, the Fed will cut rates sooner. But the a real reason why the inflation might be falling is because the consumer just cannot buy anything, right? The consumer just doesn't have any money to buy anything anymore, and because of which the consumer cannot create demand, because of which the inflation is falling. So if you want to read this article about in detail about what exactly is happening, head on to my LinkedIn profile, and you will find an article over there which is named as "Is falling inflation actually a bad thing in disguise?" Right? But still, aside from that, nothing really happening this week. As I said that this week would have been, I said this in the previous episode that this week would be a little bit of a calm week, and rightly so. So let's move on to what is going to happen in the next week. Now, next week, we only have one data point that you need to keep in mind. Aside from that, we do not really have any sort of major event that you need to keep in mind. So, that data point is the unemployment rate for the month of August. Now, as I've said in the previous few episodes, that the unemployment rate has crossed its 36-month average, and whenever that has happened in the last 10 times, whenever that has happened, the unemployment rate has spiked very drastically. So the unemployment rate is expected to come out at 4.2%. In the previous month, in the month of July, the unemployment rate came out at 4.3%. So definitely keep this in mind. The unemployment rate could continue to move up even from here. If that happens, right, if the unemployment rate comes out negatively, the Fed will definitely get a bit of a, you can say, a reason to cut rates over here. So I would not want the unemployment rate to come out much lower than expectations, like at 4% or something. If it comes out near 4.2 something percent, then that is fine. If it comes out much higher than that also, then also it is a bit of a worrisome sign for the markets. So this time unemployment rate might be a little bit of a jittery thing, so it can also come down a little bit lower than expected. It can come out near expectations, or it can also come out a bit higher than expectations. So definitely keep that in mind. The data is going to come after markets, after the Indian markets are closed on Friday. So basically over the weekend the data is going to come. So please keep that in mind. And if you are someone who is a bit of a conservative trader, don't try to take positions over the weekend, and then try to make positions the next week after that on Monday, right? So yeah guys, that was it for the next week, the data points or the events that you need to keep in mind. Now let's move on to the IPOs that are going to come in our markets for the next week, because we do have two IPOs that are going to come in our markets. Now, the two IPOs that are coming in our markets for this week are Bazaar Style Retail Limited IPO and Gala Precision Engineering Limited. Okay, and both of these companies are from very different sectors. But Bazaar Style Retail Limited IPO, first let's talk about that, and then we'll go to Gala Precision Engineering. Okay, so this IPO has already started on August 30th, that is on Friday, and it will go up till Tuesday, that is September 3rd. So you still have 2 days to apply for this IPO, and this is an 834 crore IPO, out of which 148 crores will only go to the company, and rest of it will go to the promoters who are offloading their stake, or selling their stake from the company. So this is a bit of a bummer, but I looking at what the company is going to use these funds for, it is okay, you can say, and I'm going to talk about that in just a few more minutes over there. But first let's talk about how should you apply for this IPO if you want the listing gains. So now if you see, the gray market premium as of Friday is going on at 32%. Okay, and this is a good, you can say, gray market premium, not very good premium, but still it is a good enough premium. So what I would suggest is that if by Tuesday, by the last day, if the gray market premium goes up till 40%, it will be a very good deal to apply in this IPO for the listing gains perspective. Okay, keep this in mind, that at least aim, if you are seeing at least 40% gray market premium, only then go ahead and apply in an IPO from the listing gains perspective, because a lot of times IPOs which show 20%, 25% gray market premium, they sometimes open flat or even negative. Okay, so we don't want that. We want to apply in IPOs which will give us good listing gains. If you are applying for listing gains, if your main aim is to just take the listing gains and go out, we do not want to make a loss over there, right? So that's why, or at least our chances of making a loss should be very low. So that's why what I suggest people is that at least wait for 40% gray market premium, 50% even better. Okay, so as of now the gray market premium is at 32%. Now now by Tuesday, by the last day of the IPO, if the gray market premium continues to move up and goes up at 40% or above it, definitely consider applying it for the for the listing gains perspective. However, let's say you want to invest in this company, so should you invest in this company? Okay, and now we are going to talk about that. Now if you see the company, the amount, the 148 crores that is going to go to the company is going to be used to mostly prepay or repay the loans that the company has taken. And as of now, if you see, the liabilities of the company are near 180 crores. So that's why I think it is okay if only 148 crores are going to the company and not a lot of it are going, right? But this company, let's first see what this company does. So this is a very, you can say, a fashion retailer which has a strong presence in the eastern states of India, like West Bengal and Odisha, and all of these eastern states, right? Who are on the eastern side of the country, right? These states have the highest, the company has the highest presence in these states. And that's why, if you would have lived in, let's say, Gujarat or Maharashtra or Goa and all these places on the western side of the country, you would not see these stores. And I myself haven't seen bazaar style retail. I didn't even heard of this company before, before this IPO, and that is fine, right? And so that's why you didn't really hear about this company, because it operates in Odisha, Bihar, Assam, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Tripura and Chhattisgarh. Not even Delhi or Punjab and all of these western states. But that is fine. It has a very strong presence in the eastern side of the country. And one thing that I really like is that it is targeting the tier 2 and tier 3 cities more. Okay, you might think that this is something like a west side or something on the for the east side of the India, but no, this is a you can say company which is targeting affordable you can say affordable fashion. Okay, this company is into affordable fashion, and so this company is targeting tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So if you are really bullish on the tier 2 and tier 3 population of India, that they will be the one who will be driving India's growth story, this is one of the best companies for you to invest in that matter. And another good thing for the company is that given the price point at which they operate, or at which price point at which they sell their fashion, whatever you can say, items, they have a average order value of 1039 rupees, right? And this is also a very good order value, right? This is pretty high as compared to the average that goes on in other brands, you can say. Okay, so this is definitely a very good thing about this IPO. Also, if you see, revenues have also been growing pretty strong, from going from 561 crores in 2022 to 982 crores in 2024. And for the profit after tax front, if you see, in 2022 they had a loss of 8 crores, right? But in 2024, FY24, they had a profit after tax of 21.9 crores. So definitely a very good growth in the profit after tax. The only thing that I don't like about this company is that their net margins are just near 2% as of now, which is a bit of a bummer for me. So I would really like if this company really focuses on the net profitability of itself, because the fashion space over there, this is a bit of a competitive space. You have many other players who are eating the pie from you, or the local players also, the you can say D2C players also, direct to consumer, and the you can say brand players also, like you have Zudio, for example. They also sell affordable merchandise, affordable items, and these guys are also behind you to take your pie. So the only problem, as I said, that I have with this company is low net profit margins. If they can focus on that, and if they can, you know, try to improve their net profit margins, it is a very, very good company to play, especially if you are bullish on the tier 2 and tier 3 population of the India, not the tier 1. They don't have a lot of, you can say, presence in the tier 1 cities of India. Mostly their presence lies in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities of India. So if you are bullish on that, this is a very, very good IPO for you to apply on that. Okay, so definitely if you want to apply, definitely look out for applying in this IPO. One thing to keep in mind is that if you are thinking about buying these shares after the um, after, let's say, the IPO opens, let's say 30% higher from the issue price, then this might not be such a sweet deal, right? So only try to apply in this IPO from like try to apply in this IPO if you want to invest in it. But if you do not get these shares, don't run behind them as soon as the shares get listed. Okay, wait for a little bit of correction back down, maybe 10-15%, and then try to take these shares. Okay, because at that valuation, at 30% higher valuation, it is not such a sweet deal, especially for, you know, at least for me, it is not such a sweet deal. Okay, given the valuation that it is going to command, if let's say if let us assume that it opens 30% higher, right? And now the second IPO that we have is Gala Precision Engineering. This is a 167 crore IPO, out of which 135 crores will go to the company and the rest will go to the promoters who are selling their stake. Okay, so this IPO will open on September 2nd, which is Monday, right? Yeah, this IPO will open on Monday and it will close on Wednesday, that is September 4th. Okay, and from the listing gains perspective, should you apply to this IPO? So on Friday, the listing gain is at 37%. If now this is a good listing gain, and if the listing gain continues to stay near 37 or, you know, near 40%, it will be a good deal to apply in this IPO from the listing gains perspective. So if that is the case, definitely think about applying in this IPO from the listing gains perspective. However, if the listing gains continue to slide down after that, please do not think about applying in this IPO. There are many IPOs that are going to come in the market, so you do not need to rush to apply in every single IPO. Okay, so that is it for the, you know, from the listing gains perspective. Now let's move on to what is going to happen. No, what does this company does? Okay, and what is its business, and should you apply in this company from a fundamental perspective? So this is a company which makes many precision components. You know, they make strip springs. I'm really sorry, I butchered that word. Strip springs, coil and spiral springs, and, you know, all of these things which are not really something which are you know, which a normal manufacturing company can make, right? These are some, like, you can say, complex parts of machinery. Okay, and they also supply products to OEMs, okay, who make, let's say, who are phone manufacturers, right? OEM phone manufacturers, right? So they supply many parts to those OEMs also, original equipment manufacturers, right? So this is a bit of, you can say, a company which specializes in making precision components. Okay, and it also has many customers from outside of India, like in Germany, in China, in US, in Sweden, in Switzerland. And so definitely exports make a big part of this company's revenue also, and we are going to talk about that in just a second. But if you see, in FY22 the company had a revenue of 147 crores, and in FY23 the revenue jumped to 204 crores. So you can say a healthy increment in profits, not a very big increment, but definitely a healthy increment. And talking about the profit after tax, if you see, the profit after tax went from 6.6 crores all the way up to 22 crores in FY24. So definitely a very good improvement in the net profit margins of the company also. So as of the fundamentals, as looking at the previous fundamentals of the company, past fundamentals, past financials of the company, it looks like the company is a good bet, or is on a steady path to growth. Okay, and the ROE, ROC are also pretty healthy at 23 and 19%. Okay, PAT margins, as I said, are improving, but still at 11.8%. I think if they can improve it even a bit more, it would definitely be a good bet for you to apply, and it can definitely, the company can definitely see a very good growth in its profit also. Okay, so as of now, the IPO also appears to be fairly priced, you can say, not very cheap. So the valuations are not very cheap also, but the valuations are also not very, you can say, high for the company. Okay, so I think it is definitely a good company to apply if you are definitely looking out for companies which are mainly into exports also. A good amount of their you can say, a good amount of their revenue comes from exports also, because as I said that uh, a lot of the company's revenues come from outside, basically outside clients, right? Clients outside of India, like in Germany, Italy, all of that stuff, right? So that is, if that is how the company is placed as of now. Okay, and one more thing that you need to keep in mind is that if the government tries to do something with the exports, right? Let's say the government imposes a ban, or the government increases some sort of a duty or anything, that can be a bit of a problem. But aside from, I don't think the government will do anything which would really harm the exports of the company. But if the companies outside, the government of other countries, if they decide to take some sort of an action, or if there is a slowdown in the uh, uh, basically, you can say, outside markets. Okay, like there is a slowdown happening in US, there is a slowdown happening in Italy as of now, China is also slowing down. If the, you can say, economies of these countries start to slow down, that will be a bit of a problem for these company, for the company. But as of now, I think it is a good company to invest in if you are looking out for some company which is into specialized manufacturing, and also which you can say has a good share of exposure in the export market. So now, this was it for for both of these IPO. Now let's move on to the market analysis for the next week. Now talking about the market analysis for the next week, if you see Bank Nifty, closing 0.82% higher for this week, and Nifty closing up 1.66% higher for this week. And as I said in Bank Nifty last week also, that until and unless we go above this zone, we will not see very good bullishness in the, at least in Bank Nifty. Okay, so as of now, what can we do in Bank Nifty is that if you see Bank Nifty has just closed near that zone. So if we again open with a gap up and sustain above it, chances are that Bank Nifty can also see very good short covering this time, and mostly go on to retest this high that it has made over here. And talking about Nifty, if you see, Nifty has already crossed its all-time high much before as compared to Bank Nifty, and is continuing to move up with gap ups, right? So one problem that you would be seeing in the market is that market is definitely going up, but it is going up in gap ups, right? And throughout the day there is not really a lot of momentum that is happening, like a good momentum, right? If you see in Nifty also, you can, if you see in the daily charts over here, you would say that a lot of, good momentum would have happened in this day, right? But if you see in the 15-minute chart, the momentum that happened on this day was also so volatile, right? Over here from here, the momentum that happened on this day was also so volatile. So what the problem that is coming out is that we are not getting momentum in intraday, right? In Bank Nifty, if you see, no momentum at all, right? From this point, if you after this point, you can say no momentum at all, like no proper momentum at all in the market, right? And this is also a bit frustrating for me also, and all of the people who are trend traders, who trade on the trend, right? Or who are the trend catchers. But for an option seller, this is one of the best markets, right? If you see, just continuously decay from both sides you would be getting. Even if you sell like a weekly option or a monthly option, all of those options are continuously losing value, right? So definitely the momentum will come either on the upside or on the downside in the intraday also very soon, because the markets cannot continue to consolidate, right? They will also give you a momentum. So for Bank Nifty in the daily charts, the level that you need to watch out for is going to be 50,000, this zone on the downside of 50,700 to 800. Until and unless we go below this zone and close firmly below this for a day, we will not take very bearish positions in the market, okay? And then at every dip, at every dip, we will go ahead and take a bullish position in the market, okay? And for Bank Nifty, the major level to watch out for will be 51,100 to 150, okay? If the markets come near this area, you can again go ahead and think about taking a bullish position. If you open with a gap up, let's say somewhere near 50 on 500 to 550, 600, all these levels on Monday, then we'll wait for one pullback in the market near this zone of 51,400 to 350, and from here we can again go ahead and take a bullish trade, and chances are then we can see a very good trending day on Monday itself, okay? So keep that in mind. Talking about Nifty, if you see, Nifty also is pretty bullish. So any sort of a pullback that you get near 25,000 to 24,960 levels, it can be used as a good place to take a long position again in the markets. However, if you open with a gap up, it is better to not jump onto a trade, at the opening itself. Rather wait for a pullback in the market and then go ahead and take a bullish position. So let's say we open somewhere near 24,350, 380, all these levels, right? On Monday, wait for a pullback till at least 24,300, and then if you see any sort of a you can say any sort of positive price action that is building after the dip has come, then you can go ahead and think about taking a bullish trade on the market. But until then, please do not think about taking any sort of a position in haste at higher levels, okay? Let the markets come down a little bit and then go ahead and take a bullish position. So as of now, as I said, that until and unless 50,700 is not broken in Bank Nifty, and until and unless 24,700 is not broken, 24,800 is not broken in Nifty, please do not go bearish in the market. Rather think about taking a bullish position at lower levels, okay? And do watch my daily analysis video on the market, because that will give you a much clearer view of what can happen in the market on the next day, given the changes that happen in the market every day. So yeah guys, that was it for this episode, and thank you very much for watching till the end. I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode, and if you want any sort of changes to happen in the podcast, if you want something added or removed or anything, do let me know in the comments, or if you can DM me on Instagram or on LinkedIn, anywhere, that is also fine, and I will definitely make sure that those changes are made in the podcast, okay? And also if you have any sort of suggestions also, or some little things that you want to tell me, or have any sort of discussion, even then let me know in the comments. Post a comment, or even talk to me on LinkedIn, that is fine, and I'll definitely be available to answer you over there also. But yeah, that was it for this week, and thank you very much for watching till the end. I will see you guys in another week. Bye bye.